Alright, so this is our PowerPoint presentation for the class. Unfortunately, I couldn't show up to class to present because I've been sick, but as you can see, our PowerPoint is on the economy and how they've been affected by pandemics throughout history and stuff. And I think it's just very important, especially right now. Um, Here's some of the two basic definitions about what's going to be covered in this PowerPoint. So obviously here's some just pandemics and economy. So for the next few slides, I'm just going to go over some examples of pandemics throughout history and how they've affected the economy of that era. Also, I couldn't get the video software on my computer to work, so I'm recording on my phone, and it might be a bit shaky because I'm kind of sick right now. So I'm sorry about that. But our first pandemic is the Black Plague, and kind of like COVID-19, it could spread through the air. But it also could spread through animals like rats, mostly rats and fleas. And it eventually killed 20 million Europeans over its, like how long it lasted. Oh, sorry. And the Black Plague killed people very quickly, and workers, uh, like they were losing workers so fast. So the people who were left to work were really valued, and the workers who were left to work and would stay at their jobs would get paid more and would get treated very well because that's all they had. But many people were scared that they were going to die soon, so they would just quit their jobs so they could just live their life however they wanted because they thought they wouldn't last very long. And then for the rich people, uh, since they also feared they wouldn't last very long too, they just began spending whatever money they had to live in a luxurious lifestyle all the time they had left. Um, so people were just quitting their jobs, spending whatever money they had. People just stopped caring, really. So here's the Spanish flu. Um, it's a strain of influenza that caused a global pandemic starting in 1918. It eventually killed at least 50 million people. And the thing about Spanish flu is it really didn't matter your age or health status. It was so dangerous and deadly that it killed everyone, and it would affect everyone pretty badly, regardless of who they were. And in the U.S., large cities began shutting down, kind of like we have with COVID. There's a parallel. And so many people were just sick and bad with the disease. They couldn't work, they couldn't do anything. And kind of like with the Black Plague, people weren't able to work anymore, so that made their wages increase. They were valued and they began being treated pretty well because those were the only workers they had left. And there was also an increase of the social security system. People began using it a lot more. I guess because they couldn't work. So, and then here's COVID-19, which is the most recent pandemic, and it's a communicable disease that can transfer through the air like the Black Plague could. And it began appearing in late 2019, so about a year ago. And within just a few months, it was across the entire world. It was in every country almost. And unlike the Spanish flu, it mostly affected older people negatively. Well, it's affecting, I should say. It's not gone yet. But like younger people are usually fine. But also people with negative health statuses, like if you have like diabetes or cancer or respiratory diseases, um, then that can really hurt you badly. The virus can. But lockdown began about March as the COVID-19 cases rose, and many workers were being laid off, and eventually 3.3 million Americans filed for unemployment. So Congress passed the CARES Act, which provided families with financial aid they needed, also known as like the stimulus check, which we were provided with earlier this year. So let's see, how has COVID-19 affected low-income countries? So we have low-income countries. How has COVID-19 affected low-income countries? Oops, sorry. Afghanistan's economy was already in shambles because of like the violence that takes place over there and political instability, and they also didn't have enough aid at the time. But once COVID-19 entered the country, it caused Afghanistan's government revenue to be like really hurt and like damaged because of the lockdowns, and there wasn't as much trade going on because countries were locking down and stopping trade and not sending people to other countries and stuff. And then the unemployment also reduced um, consumption, so that hurt their economy as well. As for India, sorry. As for India, COVID-19 caused their GSD to contract by 23.9%, and inflation also increased. This has caused India's GDP to be one of the worst uh, out of all the countries since COVID hit. And then for Ethiopia, on September 30th, the third progress report of the Global Humanitarian Response Plan for COVID-19 was released, which granted Ethiopia $506 million. So that's very good for them. Okay, so here we have our high income countries. Um, for Japan, their economy fell into a recession because of COVID-19, which caused their economy to shrink by 0.9%. Japanese exports were one of the hardest hit out of all the countries, and they fell 6%. And kind of like America, or the United States, I should say, where we had our stimulus check, there was a 100,000 yen handout to every citizen to mitigate the damage the virus has done to their economy. But 100,000 yen is only like $930 for us. Italy went under a lockdown like the United States did as well, and that hit their economy pretty hard. So in order to mitigate the damage, Italy's government dispensed $3.9 billion into their economy, and they also introduced tax credits to it says company or countries, but it's supposed to say companies that lost 25% in revenues. As for the United Kingdom, their economy was hurt more than any other major country in the world, and their GDP fell by 20.4% only in the second quarter. That is it for my part of the presentation. I believe Heather should uh, present at some point, or she should send you her recording. I'm actually unsure, but yeah, that's what I have. So thank you.